Hello, I'm Jennifer Witt, Director of ProjectManager.com. Well, welcome to our whiteboard session on 5 tips for controlling scope on your project. Controlling scope is one of the hardest things that project managers can do, and it's one of the top leading factors of failed projects. When I talk to CEOs or stakeholders of projects, one of their top complaints is the lack of control of the scope on their projects. So just want to try to give you 5 tips that have helped me along the way, because trust me, I've had every lesson learned about scope and runaway scope and problems with scope on my projects. So one reminder, if you go, I always recommend look up what some terms mean before we actually start these sessions. So if you go to Google or any internet browser or your dictionary and look up control, you can see what it means. I thought it was funny how today I looked up control using Google, and one of the top things that came up was the word control, and right under it was control freak. And I thought that's perfect because that's actually one of the lessons learned too. So if you look at what control means, it actually means to check, to test, to verify and regulate, how to keep it in order, monitor it, and when it's out of control, what are the things I need to do to get it back on track? And then likewise is what it does not mean. Sometimes when we're project managers, one of the last things we want to do is change our work plans because we've got the plan fixed, it's taken a long time, there are all these dependencies. So one of the things that project managers try to do is stop any changes to scope. Well, we know change is going to occur not only in scope but other components of the project. So it's not to stop it, because that would mean the inner control freak would be coming out. But so what we want to do is actually control it. So reminder that scope is one of the components of the triple constraint. So in project management, the triple constraint consists of the scope, which is the deliverables or the work products, and the cost, the time, and the quality. So throughout the project, we know these variables are going to change. So it could be changes that occur that we were aware of or unaware of, so they may have been known or unknown, but maybe something happens to the cost, so it may impact the scope, or there may be a change in the time or the quality, which is going to impact scope. So there are many reasons for changes to scope throughout the project. So we want to not stop the scope changes, but we want to control them. So what are those tips that we need? So first of all, get a mantra. I had to get a mantra and always remind myself that change will happen. So that's my mantra, and I suggest get a mantra that's good for you, but to remind yourself change will happen. So you're in the mindset that when it does occur, you're not going to freak out. Number 2 is technology. I remember one of the first complex projects that I had, I spent a lot of time on my schedule and my work plan, my work breakdown structure and building my schedule. So the first time that I had a scope change, I tried to be the control freak and stop it from happening, because there's no way I wanted to redo this plan. And so I remember telling my stakeholder, no, we're not going to change it. And he just pulled down his little glasses and looked at me, and I'm like, yeah, I can't believe I just said that. You're right. So, but one of the things that made me say that was I didn't want to go through the time and effort to redo all these plans, because it was back in the day before we had such great technology or project management software. So I recommend get technology. Let technology support you, specifically project management software. Project management software so you can build your work breakdown structure, your schedule, your plans in the system, and go ahead and connect your dependencies. So whenever a variable changes, then you don't freak out and try to stop the change, but you can use the technology to support you. Number 3 is have your change control board. One thing you don't want to do is to make the decisions yourself, because this is the triple constraint, and your stakeholders who are represented on your change control board are the authorities who actually approve the changes. So it really relieves the pressure from the project manager and you get to get the information and bring it to your change control board and let the change control board make the decisions of whether to approve or disapprove changes to the scope. And number 4, a process. Know what your change control process is. Identify who can submit change requests, who can approve them, when can they approve them, when do they submit them, what is the process for the business units to submit scope changes or the team to submit scope changes to the project, and who approves them. And then 5 is communicate that process to the team, because in truth, the people who get bombarded the most about change is not the project manager, because people sometimes fear submitting the change request to the project manager directly or through the process because they're in fear that they're going to say no. So what happens is the team members who are interacting maybe with some of the business units directly or some of the other team members, vendor partners, the entry points for the scope change request, and the team doesn't know, so they may do it. So you need to communicate the process to your team, coach them on things that they can say, because sometimes it's uncomfortable for the team members to say no. So you can coach them on what to say, coach them how to direct the business units, maybe the end users, the vendor partners, on how to submit those changes so they don't feel bombarded or they don't feel obligated to go ahead and do the changes that you're not aware of. So I think these are some of the 5 tips that have helped me for sure on some of the things that have caused me the grief, and it removed me from having to be the control freak. So I hope they help you too. If you're looking for a tool that can help you control the scope on your project, then sign up for our software now at projectmanager.com.